In this video, we are going to look at the Travail du jour questions that students work with during the week of November 26th. So let's start with the questions in box 1. So students are expected to work with all of these questions mentally. That's our goal. It's possible at this point that some students might still need to write some numbers down, hopefully just so they don't forget them. But they shouldn't be showing a whole lot of strategies for these kinds of numbers. So if we just talk it through, and I'll write it out for the first one. So what I'm asking students to do is decompose only one of the numbers. So in this case, to see 60 as 60 plus 5. And this is an important step since a lot of students are always decomposing every number they see, no matter what the numbers are. And then what we want students to do is ask themselves, what is the sum of 67 and 60, which is 127. And 127 plus 5 is 132. So if I do the second question in the same way, and again, I'm writing these out just for the video, but the expectation would be that the students be able to either speak this or think about it and come up with the sum mentally. So 97 plus 50 is 147, plus 6 is 153. Now, the comparing question at the bottom is a really interesting one. There's two ways of doing it. The first is by finding the sum of each side. So in this case, 85 plus 30 is 115, plus 7 is 122. And on the other side, 49 plus 30 is 79, plus 7 is 86. So we see easily here that 85 plus 37 is more than 49 plus 37. However, again, I'm really encouraging students to kind of stop and think a little bit when they do these kinds of questions. When they look at the numbers, they might realize that because I'm adding 37 on both sides, the actual sum here is really irrelevant because 85 is more than 49. The expression 85 plus 37 has to be greater than the expression 49 plus 37. So moving on to box 2, here is just another chance for students to work with numbers that are represented with place value language. I encourage students to get rid of the distractions right away and think of 12 dizaines or 12 tens automatically as 120, and then 120 plus 97 is 217. And then without finding the sum of each of them, centaines is hundreds, so 3 centaines is the same thing as 3 hundreds, which is 300. 10 dizaines is the same thing as 10 tens, or 100, and then they would find the sum. And in the last question, 30 dizaines is the same thing as 30 tens, or 300. And 3 hundreds, 3 centaines, is the same thing as 300 here as well. We're going to skip the third box. There's another video on my website posted just about sequences, so I encourage you to look at it. The question in the fourth box about the perimeter is a real problem-solving situation. There's a lot to do here. Students are encouraged to write things out and draw things out and speak things out. First step is always kind of eliminating distractions. So we'll take 12 dizaines, which is the same thing as 12 tens, and just recognize that that is 120. 4 dizaines, or 4 tens, is the same thing as 40. And then I encourage you to watch, if you haven't done so, my video on the perimeter, because I'm going to go through the steps rather quickly here. So if I break up my rectangle in two, what I essentially have are two lengths that are equivalent. So if the perimeter of the rectangle is 120, then both halves have to be equal to 60, because 60 is the half of 120. So what students have to ask themselves next is 40 plus what is equal to 60? Because the sum of my two dimensions here and here should be 60. So the answer in this case is 20, which tells me that 15 plus k is equal to 20, which means that k must have a value of 5. So again, this is a question with a lot of work, with a lot of steps, but students definitely have the knowledge needed to solve them. Now they just need opportunities to practice putting them all together. If we move on to the second set of questions that students work with, you'll see that they're very similar to the first one, so I won't go over them all, but I encourage you to work through them at home and contact me if you have any questions. But keep in mind that I will try and do a post like this every week just to make practice a little bit more connected between what we do at school and what is done at home. Thanks for watching.